I'm Micaela Mangot. I'm 16 years old, and I was 15 years old when I first learned of Deborah Peagler's story through the documentary Crime After Crime.
Hello, Miss Deborah. Hi.
She was convicted of murder more than 20 years ago, but tonight attorneys fighting for a battered woman's freedom say there's a lot we haven't heard about her story of abuse and desperation.
To avoid the death penalty, she pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in 1983. Being a battered woman was no defense at that time.
Debbie was the same age as me when she was forced into prostitution and horribly abused. The court should have looked at the whole entire story. They didn't see that she was abused. They didn't see that he raped her daughter. They didn't look at any of that. And she was not given justice. They just said, oh, she's going to jail for life. After Debbie was in jail for 20 years, 2 attorneys volunteered to help exonerate her.
They thought it would just be a couple of months. 5 years later, they're still on the case.
Ms. Peagler, starting at the age of 15 and continuing for years, was subjected to horrific abuse at the hands of Oliver Wilson.
Debbie's 2 attorneys used a law that was only in California to help free her, and I was really upset that there wasn't a law in New Jersey, so I thought, oh, I should organize a screening so other people could hear Debbie's story. And I wanted to invite a senator. And I was pestering and I was emailing and calling Senator Loretta Weinberg, and she came.
A young, wonderfully articulate high schooler contacted my office and asked, you know, the hook to get an elected official to come someplace. Will you do a panel? So I said, of course. I got so absorbed in watching the story unfold between this courageous woman who suffered from these events in her life and these 2 kind of disparate attorneys.
We have bad news and we have good news. Okay. The bad news is you've apparently been incarcerated illegally. The good news is the DA has agreed that your crime was voluntary manslaughter, which means your maximum sentence would have been 6 years.
Debbie represents a class of women who are probably far too well represented in the prison population. Women who have been abused, the judges, law enforcement would tell, go home and be nice to your partner, and it won't happen again.
He beat me till it was black and blue, and this was the only way I could ever get away from him.
And when you look at the population growth among women in prison, I mean, it's absolutely overwhelming. I decided after seeing this film I was going to go to work on a piece of legislation that would enable domestic violence victims who are in prison to go ahead and reopen their cases if they can show evidence of domestic abuse, which led up to their imprisonment, and to make sure they are legally entitled to present that kind of evidence to a probation hearing. So it's not just saying, well, we want to open the prison doors and let out a whole bunch of violent folks. It is to address what really was an injustice. And Debbie personifies what that injustice is. I feel in a way I'm helping to move her legacy forward, as well as to help any other Debbies that are sitting in prison for much too long.
With this law, domestic violence survivors will be able to explain their story, and the court will be able to look at what's happened to them.
Since California has already passed the law, I'm hoping that the work I'm doing here, along with other legislators in New Jersey will be the 2nd state to pass this law, and then it's going to help take seed. After all, we'll have both coasts covered, so we just have that vast country in between to start addressing.